All right, today we're going to get the system, and we're going to kind of take it up to the next level with adding some of the single page functionality you might see in other systems without doing really much of anything with JavaScript. And that's going to be possible because we're going to be taking advantage of Turbo to do a lot of that work. So if you're not familiar with Turbo Frames, it's part of the Hotwire system, which has a bunch of technologies called Turbo something. The idea behind Turbo Frames is that on your current page, you'll have a Turbo tag. So just think it's essentially a div that has a certain ID on it. So if you have the Turbo tag, which is essentially a div with the ID ABC123, and then you load the next page, what's going to happen is it's going to be looking for anything on that page that's also Turbo Frame with the same ID. So it's looking for the ABC123. And then what Turbo is going to do is it's going to throw the entire page in the garbage except for that one section, and it's going to grab that and stick it into your current page in the current spot. So that's how we're going to kind of start with things. Turbo's got a lot more than that, but that's kind of where we're going to start. So we've got our project loaded up, and we've got our page here. So what we want to do is that when you click the add note, it'll pop in the form for the note. When you hit save, then it'll add it to the list, and the form will go away. So this will all keep you on the same page. So let's do that. So in our people show, we have the add note button. So right now, this is not inside of any Turbo frame. So this is going to be doing navigation at the top of the page. But what we want to do is, one, add a frame that it's going to be connected to, and then connect it. So in here, we're going to do, we're going to go Turbo frame, and we're going to give this a name. And it's going to be anything. It ends up being an ID. So let's just call this new activity. And right now, we actually don't want this to have anything inside of it. So if we reload the page, Turbo frame tag, if we load the page and inspect in here, we can see right here the Turbo frame ID new activity with nothing inside of it, which is exactly what we want. Now, right now, this link isn't connected to that frame that's kind of hidden right in between the add note and the top item here. They're not connected to each other. So let's do that. So to do that, we want to come in here, and we're going to have data Turbo frame, and that's going to be at new activity. So if we refresh and inspect the link, we now see the data Turbo frame new activity and the ID new activity here. And if we click on it, it's still going to do a redirect. So that's happening because, actually, if I load up the page, the console, so if I go add note, I think this actually gives you a note. Where's the? Oh, I believe it shows a flash for a moment saying that I couldn't find any ID. So inside of this new activity Turbo frame, it's looking at the page that we load for that. So if we go to the notes new, this is where we're going to want to put that in here. Okay, so let's load this, go add note, and boom, that pops in. Perfect. So let's do that, create note, and nothing has happened. Now, if we bring up the terminal, we'll see that we did a get to go back to this page, which we don't really want to be doing. So here we can see we did a post. We can see that it was submitted as a Turbo stream, so that's cool. We can see that it inserted a node, it created activity in the activity record, and then it redirected, which we don't want that. So that's where we have to make another change to make this work the way we want to. So inside of the notes controller, we want to take advantage of a few things here. So respond to do format. So in here, what we have, basically what we had currently was this. But we're going to be doing some other things to make this work a little bit more nicely. So we're going to do format.turbostream. Okay, so for this to work, this is just going to be rendering. We can do a few things too. If we're just doing a simple single thing, we can just put it in here. But we actually want to do a few things. So let's hop down to the views, and we are going to create for the notes a create.turbostream. All right, so in here, the basic thing that we want to do is we want to turbo stream dot prepend. So what we actually want to be doing is we want to be sticking that note right into the top here. So we want to prepend, and we don't actually have anything to prepend to. So let's just pretend we do. So we'll prepend to the activities, and we want to prepend the note. So this is going to just render out that note. But this activities doesn't exist right now, so we're going to have to add that. So if we go into the activities, we can just put that right here. We can go turbo tag activities, and this essentially is just a div functionally. So we can actually just pull in the class into here, and this here. So this, if I now refresh this page, which we're turbo frame tag. So first off, is I refresh the page manually. So the redirect, it was actually caching a few things, which is why it didn't show up right away. Now that I've refreshed, it's showing up. And if we inspect, we can see that we now have the turbo frame ID activities. And it's going to help if I activities, which means I probably spelled that wrong over here too. Yep. All right. So now we've wired this up so that when you click add new, it's going to stick into that frame. And actually, let's look at this for a sec. Oop. So if we click here and inspect the content of this, one thing to note, so we can see what's going on here. We have the new activity, and it's set up there. Okay, so if I come in here and I go turbo note 2, we now get turbo note 2, but this frame is still sitting here. So we actually want to get rid of that. So if I come in here and go, I'm actually going to put this first. So we can go turbo frame, turbo stream dot replace. I want to replace the new activity frame, and I'm just going to put in blank. Let's see what happens here. So if I refresh, I do add note, and I go turbo note 3. That goes away, which is perfect. But let's inspect this here, and we can see that it replaced that whole frame with nothing, which means that we lost that frame that we were targeting. So let's hop back in here, and we don't want to replace this with nothing. We want to replace that with turbo frame tag new activity. And yeah, it's a good one. So I actually have come from a background where we use brackets for everything. So yeah, I kind of stumble into some of those things sometimes. All right, this should now work. So I can do create new note, that gets added to the top, And if I inspect, we can still see that new activity frame. So if I click on add note, and actually just to show this, if I come in here, I'm just going to make a modification to the page. So I've got that macro card. I can say super awesome ink. So when I come in here, I can go add another note. We're still on the same page. This didn't get changed. I can go turbo note 6. And I can submit this, and you can see that super awesome ink, which is just an edit I made on the page, is still there, which means that we never redirected and it went anywhere. So all of this is staying in this one page, which is perfect. That's exactly what we're looking to do. Now, the one thing that's a little bit annoying with this is that, especially as you have more stuff, because eventually this add note is going to pop up a modal somewhere. And that means that you're not necessarily, like here, it's add note, note field, new note, right underneath it. But that's not what it's going to be when this is kind of real and in use. So it'd be nice to be able to make it something that highlights it. If you use jQuery back in the day, this is where you could easily add something and fade it out, or do something along those lines. But this is actually where there's a website, Boring Rails, at boringrails.com. They've got some really great articles that are just about taking advantage of the stuff that's built into Rails. They have the idea of self-destructing stimulus controllers. So we're actually going to create one for that. So the idea behind a self-destructing stimulus controller is that you add to the page, it does some stuff, and in the stimulus controller itself, the final action is going to be this.element.remove. So it actually removes itself from the page. That's the whole self-destructing concept. So let's actually do something. So we can do Rails. I don't have a console in here. Rails G stimulus. And we're going to call this highlighter. And all right. So we now have the controller, and we're just going to do in here alert foo. All right. So in our turbo stream, we want to actually use that. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to go turbo stream, and we have to put this somewhere. And it doesn't really matter. This is where I could probably put in like a dummy turbo stream that just is like that's for transient things. I'm not prepending it because the way that I have it set up, it might blow up a little tiny bit because it could. But this is what I'm going to do for now. So I'm just going to say add to the activities. And in here we're going to go do. And in here, instead of using a div or something like that, because a div can be rendered to the page, what I'm actually going to do in here is I'm going to use a template tag. And that's because a template tag is part of the DOM, but it actually doesn't affect anything. It's completely non-rendered. So in here I can do highlighter. And with this I want to do highlighter target value. So in here I'm going to give an ID of the thing I'm targeting, especially if I can type it out. So for this we're going to use the DOM ID helper, which is a great helper. If you're not familiar with it, what this is going to do is it's going to look at the name of the thing you pass in, and this is going to create an ID of note 123, whatever the ID is. But it's going to do whatever is appropriate with that. So that works out really, really well. So we're going to be targeting the DOM ID of note. Now this doesn't currently exist on anything, so we have to take care of that. So if we go over to the note, we have the element here. So we're going to do ID equals DOM ID of the note. And if we actually refresh this page, you'll see now when we inspect it that we've got note with the IDs here. All right. So, so right now if I go add note, it's going to say foo, which means things are connected. Great. All right, so let's hop over to the controller. Okay, so in here, what we're going to want to do is we've got our target. So this is going to be coming from static values. We've got our target, which is a string. So in here we can go document dot element, get element by ID, and that's going to be this dot target value. So we now have our target. Great. So with this, we want to do something like this. We want to do something like target dot class list dot add, and in here we might do something like BG blue 400, and that's going to set that up. We're going to do a set timeout. So this is going to happen after 1.5 seconds, and here we're going to remove that background. And like I said, this is self-destructing. So this dot element dot remove. So now we're going to remove this element from the page itself. All right, let's see if I messed anything up. So we can add a note. It's blue, and now it's not. Beautiful. So that's the idea. So what it's a terrible highlight though. So let's just play with that for 2 seconds to make it maybe a little bit better color. And actually probably it should be like a yellow. That'd be a little bit more traditional for a highlighter. But anyways. And probably we want to play with this more. Probably put a transition on it. You know, there's a bunch of stuff along those lines that we want to do that might make it look better. But that's the idea. So what we did today is that with the note we added, so it's going to be targeting a frame, and that could be anywhere on the page. So eventually that'll be moved to kind of like a modal container or something. We then add it to the list. We remove the form from the page, and then we use a self-destructing stimulus controller to highlight it and take care of that. Now, there's a few places here where we would want to be probably cleaning a few things up that I'm not going to tackle right now because I don't know exactly what this should be. But what would be really nice is to have a helper in here that we could do something like highlighter helper, and this is going to take the activities, and this is going to take the target, something like this. That would make this a lot easier to clean than this. And this, because it's self-destructing, we can even maybe remove this and just have like a defined place where we dump these self-destructing things, because they're generally following the same pattern where they target something in the DOM that's known using an ID. So we can just have like a dumping ground for those types of things. But yeah, we're not going to necessarily do that right now. But this is kind of taking that first step in using TurboFrames to let us create those items. And this is probably the type of thing that we would end up doing even for like the add phone number. This would just pop open a form underneath here and kind of do the exact same idea. So you can see how once you add this one part of your page or one part of your site, you kind of want to put it everywhere, because this gives you a lot of that single page, a lot of what you would get from going to a single page application without the need to set up a whole React stack or something along those lines. All right. So what I'm probably going to be doing off screen is going through and basically doing this exact same thing for the emails, for the phone numbers. It's basically the exact same setup, so there's not much to be gained from there. I'm also going to be looking at probably doing some styling of the system. I'm going to be traveling for a couple days, so that's what I'll probably do offline. So hopefully when I do my next video, things are looking a little more sharp and are kind of popping open a little bit better with some of the new, adding some new TurboStream things. All right, take care.